Hello all and welcome to CAT VRC 100 series. This is RC number 6. Let's begin. So it was an interesting passage. In the first paragraph, author tells us that there are multiple reasons for confusion about how animals regulate their population. In the second paragraph, he introduces theory 1, which proposes that climate regulates their population. In the next paragraph, he introduces theory 2, which proposes that it is density or crowding that regulates population growth. And in the last paragraph, he introduces theory 3. It is social cues that regulate population growth. So basically, epidectic behavior, social behavior regulates population growth. When population of animals in a given region increases, they start giving, they start behaving in a way that gives other animals an indication to regulate their the sexual activity. So there are hormonal changes, etc. So social cues regulate population behavior. That's theory 3. Now, please note, author mentions that there are difficulties associated with T2 and T3, and T3 has even been challenged by several studies. But author does not directly support either of the three theories. He does not directly refute, reject, challenge either. So the passage style, the passage type is objective. To the questions now. All of the following are mentioned or implied as factors behind the lack of consensus among scientists about the processes by which animals regulate their populations, except. So all of the following are mentioned as factors behind the confusion or lack of consensus among scientists about regulatory processes, except. Our source is first paragraph, which tells us about the multiple sources of confusion and the lack of consensus. Option A says linguistic ambiguities. It was mentioned that there is misunderstanding over the use of certain terms. There is confusion about the use of certain terms. So the definition of certain terms or use of certain terms is not clear. There's misunderstanding, which can be paraphrased as linguistic ambiguities are there. There is confusion. Ambiguity means confusion. Linguistic means language related. So if certain terms are difficult to interpret or there is misunderstanding about these terms, linguistic ambiguities is correct. It is mentioned. So not the answer. Myopic approach to the subject. It was mentioned that there is a common tendency to embrace partial, one-sided explanations, which means one-sided explanations means myopic approach to the subject mentioned. Divergence in sample selection and empirical data. It was also mentioned that different studies have considered different groups of animals. Different studies have taken as sample different groups of animals, which means there is divergence in sample selection. So this is also mentioned. Absence of any specialization on the subject. It's contrary to what the passage says. The passage says this confusion is an outcome of specialization. The confusion itself is an outcome of specialization. So specialization is causing confusion rather than its absence. Absence of any specialization is not causing the confusion. So this is contradictory to what the passage says. Option D should be the correct answer. Which of the following, if true, would best support CR, critical reasoning question? The density dependent theory. Okay. So density dependent theory T2 says as crowding. Penultimate paragraph, please read it once again if you're not sure what it said, and then compare what I'm trying to explain here. Crowding, as crowding of animals increases, their growth rate, their population growth rate decreases. This is what density dependent theory proposes, that as crowding increases, their growth rate decreases. Okay. Option A now says, as the number of foxes decreases in a particular region, the growth rate of this animal increases. So crowding decreases as the number of foxes decreases, their growth rate increases. Now please note, option A is converse of the given relation. Converse of the given relation. And remember one important point here, make a note. If a given statement is true, we cannot definitely say that its converse is also true. We cannot say. So the two statements are not equal. First statement does not lead to the second one. It does not lead to the second one, but, important point. But the question says which of the following, if true, we are not sure whether the converse is true, but what if it is true? Will it support? The answer to this is yes. So converse of a given statement always supports the given statement. Remember this. If a particular relation is given to you, and the question says which of the following, if true, would support this relation, and one answer choice is the converse of that given relation, the converse will support the original. Though the converse is not necessarily true, but if true, the question itself says if true, will it support? Yes, it will support. Converse will always support the original. Option A is the correct answer. Once again, watch this part if you did not understand it, and make sure you understand this important point. Critical reasoning questions are many times based on this concept of converse. Converse reinforces the original. Okay. As the number of woodpeckers in an area decreases, their growth rate also decreases. This is opposite to the relationship mentioned. If the number of a particular species decreases, the growth rate should increase rather than decrease. So this is opposite. So is option C. As the number of prairie dogs increases in a particular area, their growth rate also increases. Again, opposite. After the number of beavers in a particular region decreases, their predators tend to increase. Where does this new term predator come from? Alien. The relationship is between the population, the existing population of the same species, and the growth rate of the same species, not the growth rate of a predator species. So this is alien idea. Option D is out as well. Question number 3. According to T3, as it is described by the passage, epidectic behavior displays serve the function of. Epidectic behavior serves the function of. Now, this is a tricky question, and probably many of you got it wrong. Probably, I'm not sure. The question says epidectic behavior serves the function of. What is the role of epidectic behavior? What do they achieve? What do animals achieve by displaying epidectic behavior? And the two options mentioned, winter roosting aggregations or group vocalizing, they are not the end goal of epidectic behavior. They are examples of epidectic behavior, because it is written epidectic behavior such as this and this. So these two are examples of epidectic behavior. This is what epidectic behavior means. But why do they display this epidectic behavior is the question. What is the function of this behavior? And the function is given in the next line. Such codes provide organisms with information about the population size so that they can exercise reproductive restraint, so they can control their reproductive activities. That's the function of such epidectic behavioral displays. Correct answer, option C. Tricky question, but not difficult. The primary purpose of this passage is to do what? Okay. Option A says to argue against those scientists. Now wait. Has the author supported any theory? T1, T2, or T3? No. He has merely presented facts or information about these theories. So he's not arguing against any scientists. The passage was not subjective. Author's opinion is not there. He merely mentions facts and leaves it at that. To compare and contrast density dependent and epidectic theories of population control. This is correct, T2 and T3. But is it the primary purpose? What about T1? Where is T1? So option B, though correct, is incomplete. We are looking for a better option. Option C, to summarize a number of scientific theories that attempt to explain how animal populations are regulated or why animal populations do not exceed certain limits. Exactly. So is he summarizing a number of theories? Exactly. T1, T2, T3, he's summarizing the theories. He's not taking any stand. He's not supporting either. There's no bias. Option C should be the correct answer. to deplore the inadequacies of existing theories. Wait, again, is the author expressing criticism of the theories that they're incomplete and this is sad, etc.? Nothing like that. So because there is no subjectivity in the passage, there's no author's opinion, personal feelings about the subject, we eliminate this option as well. Option C is the correct answer. Last question. Which of the following statements would provide the most of logical continuation of the final paragraph? In the final paragraph, author says that T3 has been challenged by several studies. It has been challenged by several studies. So a logical continuation of this final paragraph should also talk about challenge to T3. Option A says T3 raises serious questions. Okay, now wait. T3 has been challenged. T3 को challenge किया गया, which means T3 does not raise questions. Questions have been raised on T3. This is converse of what we need. Option B. Because T3 is able to explain more kinds of animal behavior than T2. Epidectic explanations, that is T3, are now widely accepted. Wait. Last line of the passage says T3 has been challenged by several studies. Option B says T3 is now widely accepted. This is opposite to what we need. So goes out. Option C. The results of one study, for instance, have suggested that group vocalizing, an epidectic behavioral display, is more often used to defend territory than to provide information about population density. Now wait. T3 proposed that by showing epidectic behavior such as group vocalizing, animals can regulate their sexual activity. But option C says that such behavioral displays as group vocalizing is done in order to defend territory than to convey information about population density. So option C directly challenges T3. And it also mentions one study, for example, because the last line says several studies have challenged T3. Option C can be a logical continuation to the passage. Option D, some of these studies have in fact worked out a system and complex code of social behavior that can regulate population size. Wait. If these studies have worked out a system of social behavior that regulates population size, they support T3. But in the passage, T3 has been challenged by these studies. So in a sense, D is also contradictory to what we need. So option C is the correct answer. Hope you like the video, guys. Please hit the like button, share it with your friends if you like our effort here, and make my time worth the while. Keep learning, keep improving. Cheers to learning. Bye-bye.